Hello and welcome to your Sounds on the Couch. I am very excited to introduce the guest that I have with me today. Oskar Campbell originates from the serene Sunshine Coast hinterland. He's been a music enthusiast since day one. He's been attached to the guitar from the age of 6 and beginning to experiment with vocals, and he naturally progressed into playing live shows at the tender age of 9. Through his teen years, he as well was playing, sorry, through his teen years, he was playing regular cover shows and began writing songs and playing in a rock band called Dosed. The next few years were spent making mistakes and also consequently learning who he was and what he valued as a musician. In 2020, he parted ways with the band and launched his very own solo project. And since then, he's been focusing on writing songs, playing shows, and building his fan base. I know that he has a lot to share with us, so I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's just bring him up and start our chat now. Hello, Oskar.
Hey Karen, how you doing?
Hey, good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, would you like to maybe just start by letting our audience know a little bit about who you are within your music, but also who you are just in general?
Yeah, I suppose my music's a pretty accurate representation of who I am in general as well. But I'm from Sunshine Coast. I've been playing music for pretty much my whole life, and it's pretty much been the main passion thing I've been most enthusiastic about. So I do spend a lot of my time sort of doing that, and then in between there, I'm doing bits and pieces of other things. But yeah, I've been in a whole bunch of different projects and had a fair bit of experiences playing with different people and sort of participating in different music projects over the sort of years. And now I'm sort of branching out to do my own solo thing and trying to find my own sound and my own sort of voice within the industry and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's been a really exciting year for me so far.
Yeah, well, it definitely sounds like it. Are you able to maybe give us a little bit of an insight as to what it was that sort of pushed you to go and create your solo career? I mean, you've been playing obviously in the band, and what was it that pushed you to sort of get outside of that?
Yeah, I think honestly it's just a natural progression sometimes I play with a band with a couple of friends of mine that I've known pretty much my whole life. So it was a really good experience playing with people that I was so close to and really good friends with. And we created a lot of music together, and that sort of drove a lot of my passion for a few years. And then I suppose things just changed a little bit. We're in different headspaces, and I was feeling really inspired to take my own direction with it and sort of just try something different. I suppose it was at that tender young age of my life that I'm just
Yeah.
excited to experience different things and try everything out, I suppose. So that's led me to here, which is it's feeling a lot more natural, I suppose. And yeah, it's been a good progression, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And what's your experience been like? I mean, I guess when you had the band, you had all those people around you to sort of support you. How's it been sort of going solo?
Yeah, I mean it's different. Like it's definitely different playing. I think I feel more comfortable on a stage with people, especially when there's friends. Like it's a different experience getting up. You feel very vulnerable just getting up and playing by yourself, and it really probably makes you look at your own performance a lot more, which is good because you can't blame anyone else when it's not sounding good. You actually really got to look at what you're doing, which has probably been really valuable because it's made me sit back and probably take time to more work on my performance, I suppose, as well, and sort of refine it to a point that I'm really happy with and excited to share with people. So that's been different. But look, I think because you're always at gigs or whatever, I'm still surrounded by so many musos. So I felt that camaraderie and that music community is always around as well, which is kind of what a lot of it's about. So I never feel really like too alone doing the solo thing, but it's definitely different. It's the motivation, I think, is probably the hard thing to, you don't really have other people motivating you as much. It's really all up to you to get stuff to happen, which is it's good and it's bad, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I think that's really valuable for people to hear as well that might be looking to sort of take that step. Um, so you mentioned about community and that camaraderie, sort of with the local musicians that you might go around and do these gigs with. How has that been for you? What like how have you found sort of getting into that sort of local music community?
Yeah, I feel it's super privileged to be in a place. I mean, the Sunshine Coast, I think, has a really tight knit, welcoming friendly music community, which has been really nice. And like at the moment, I've just moved to Brisbane, so I'm sort of looking to branch out and come across that more down here, which I do know a fair few musos down here. But I mean, with what my experience has been so far, it's really great. There's always so many people that are just in the same headspace, and they're just like-minded people that are out there trying to do their best and share their passion and share what they're doing. So, there's always that stuff to connect with people on. And I think that's kind of what lives and breathes through the music industry, which breeds a lot of really cool artists and stuff as well. But, everyone's just kind of lifting each other up and inspiring each other and whatnot. So yeah, it's a big part of it. Like, you can't do it all by yourself. I think you need a lot of all that help around you. Sort of helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of how did you find that was affected during the COVID period?
Look, I think I mean, for me, someone that doesn't particularly have a big audience or anything at this stage, in that emerging stage of my career, it's almost been okay. I think the people probably that are suffering the most are the ones that already have established audiences, and they're really excited to get out and share their music with people, but they can't, there's not the stuff to facilitate that at the moment. So, I mean, for me, I think I've been really lucky because I've still been able to play pretty much all of the shows that I usually would have. And I've actually had a really good year in terms of meeting lots of musicians and playing shows and having really great live experiences. I mean, I think I also kind of got lucky getting out of the band scene at that time, because it's very different. Like, the solo stuff is a little bit more intimate and sentimental audiences, which I think has resonated really well with what's going on with COVID stuff, that community of it. Whereas I think the band scene's maybe died down a little bit just because it's not really working for some people in this time. So I feel for those people. But yeah, I think personally I haven't really been hit too hard, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, no, great. What do you think, for those who might not be maybe that familiar with your music, how would you best describe sort of what your music sounds like?
This is the one that I'm constantly working on and constantly changing here and there. But I think, look, I think every sort of step of the way, it's changing and probably finding things that it's slowly getting to a point that it's more consistent and authentic. But I'd say that the sort of underlying theme that goes through everything is that I've been influenced by a lot of old school music, a lot of old school sort of rock and roll, and just everything old school pop music and stuff. So that kind of breathes through all my music, I'd say. And it's got sort of elements of soul, rock, alternative sort of stuff. And then it's sort of just whatever I can come up with a guitar at this stage. But that's kind of where I'm looking to at the moment. I'm sort of trying to work on something that's a little bit more consolidated as far as what I want to put forward and what I'm excited to share with people. But yeah, I just said folk, rock, acoustic.
Yeah, a bit of
pop.
everything.
Yeah, a bit of everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned that you're sort of, as you're progressing, you're sort of getting more authentic. Like, what do you mean when you say you're becoming more authentic?
I think that it's I suppose the progression of just growing up, maturing, and possibly getting more confident in just being yourself and kind of resonating with your own ideas, but also having the kind of courage to show them to people and just do what you think's right, rather than what's working for other people, or what's previously worked, or whatever, what other people think's working, or what's working in the industry, or what other people have told you will work. But I think that, yeah, that having that sort of courage to be a little bit more bold and a little bit stick to your ideas, whether or not everyone else thinks they're a good idea. I think that's what breathes the authenticity through music, like, and that's kind of the arty creative side that keeps it like interesting. As an artist, I think you always want to be pushing that a little bit and doing stuff that is questionably not that great in some ways, because that's kind of the cool thing about music, is you're pushing boundaries that people wouldn't do in other things. So I'd say that's where the authenticity comes through, and you really see the character and the differences between people, at that level of expression.
No, that's great. And I think that, it's a really good point that you do within music or any kind of art, I guess. You're always having people telling you how you should be doing it and how you should be creating your music and how it should sound. And I guess it really is courage to really be able to step outside that and say, I'm going to do what is authentic to me. So
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. And so Stemming from that, I guess, like, what does your creative process look like when you are creating your music?
Yeah, I think honestly, I've had a lot of it's probably changed a little bit over time, and it's probably still adapting and changing. I still feel like I'm sort of at the beginning of everything, so I'm still working out a lot of these things in my own head. But I mean, a lot of it, to be honest, is just sitting at a guitar and
Mhm.
writing songs. You know, like whether it's an idea I've already had or generally just, I suppose, melodies that will come to my head at some stage. Usually the most inconvenient times when you're in the car or somewhere that you just have no way to write it down.
Yeah, or laying in bed, you know?
Legally anyways, or laying in bed. Yeah, you're trying to sleep and you come up with an idea. That's usually how it works. But yeah, I'd say usually that, and then from there I just sort of workshop it and play it and start playing it, and then the song just naturally sort of comes about, I suppose. Like, but it's usually inspired from things that either have happened to me or happened to someone else, or something that I can sort of connect with personally, and that's sort of the life of the song, what it's the essence of it, I suppose. And then from there, it's just workshopping it and finding out how it works, and then maybe workshopping it with audiences and seeing what's working and what's not. But
Yeah.
yeah, for now, that's kind of where it's been.
Yeah, excellent. And so when you say you're workshopping that with the audiences, just for anyone who might be watching and maybe doesn't do that, what does that mean for you?
I think for me, it's more just try. It's just the same. Comes down to that. I think having the courage to try new things and try new ideas, whether or not they go down. Like some ideas just don't go down at all. I think, especially with the whole like stage presence, um, you know, really interacting with the audience. It's like to interact with an audience properly, you have to be vulnerable. You know, you have to show them that you're willing to try new ideas. And maybe it's the way you're singing a song, or it's the way you're performing, or whatever it is you're bringing to the stage that's maybe different to what you did before. If you're not constantly sort of pushing the boundaries of that, I think that it's kind of, that's how you try new things, you know what I mean? And then you sort of see how the audience, because you might try something that you think is a crap idea and the audience love it. And then it might open up a whole new line of inspiration that leads to a new song or a new idea or whatever it is. Like, yeah, that's what I sort of think of when I'm workshopping stuff per se.
Oh, excellent. And so you're currently working on your fourth single release, is that correct? Who We Are?
Yeah, so I've been recording a song, and
Mhm.
then I've kind of just been in the background doing lots of writing and lots of planning for the future of how I'm gonna come out with new songs and whatever. So
Yeah.
for now, it's gonna be a backseat. But yeah, I have been recording a song in the last few weeks. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so I guess, you know, based on that, sort of what are you trying to work on in terms of, I mean, you said you're taking a back seat on that one. So, what are you focusing on at the moment?
Um, at the moment, I think songwriting is kind of my main thing. Like plus live performance. I think live performance is one thing that's just like essential forever. I'll be always trying to gig as much as I can and like networking, connecting with people. You know, like that's why I do it in the first place, because I love doing that stuff. But on a more background level, I'd say just songwriting. Hey, like I've just been doing lots and lots of writing and just trying to come up with a body of songs that I'm really proud of and excited about, that has some sort of that authenticity and all that stuff. I think it's all kind of just brewing up to something that I feel like at some stage I have something that I'm really excited to share with people, I suppose. Like, and I really want to feel like everything I release from now is something that I'm really excited about and I really back myself, because I think if you don't love it, then it's pretty hard to expect other people to really love it, you know?
Mm. And it really sounds like you've been on a real journey, sort of from where you sort of started to where you are now. And I think it sounds really exciting to sort of hear what you're going to be coming out with next.
Oh, well, thank you.
You do? Yeah. So how would you sort of describe the journey that you've been on? I mean, obviously you have said you've sort of been moving towards that authenticity, but
Mm.
what's it meant to you?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's just trying to, I suppose the main thing's really just been trying to navigate an industry that's extremely complicated, and there's not really much direction. I think, you know, as a someone that went through school and whatever, there wasn't really, I think I was quite unrealistic about what it is to have even a music career or whatever. I don't think that's something that's necessarily pushed in our mainstream society, or maybe it just wasn't for me, or maybe I was just closed-minded to it at the time. But I think all of those things, like I just had unrealistic expectations with things and didn't really understand how it works. So it's that constant like insatiable curiosity towards trying to work things out and trying to work out, you know, what I should be doing and what I want to be doing and what really feels good and what's sort of natural. And I think that going on that journey, and if that's your goal, it's just destined to go up and down and up and down. And, you know, it's never going to be smooth sailing, but it's just the constant pushing and like persevering through things that, you know, just the same thing comes down to that courage of just trying to do stuff that sometimes doesn't work out. So, and that's, I don't know what I'm doing most of the time, but as long as I'm doing something, I'm generally happy enough, you know, like that's what's exciting about the creative thing. I think that's what kind of got me into music in the first place is trying something new. And like, I was obsessed with playing music from a very young age because of that curiosity of sort of where it leads and what it's all about. So that hasn't really left me yet. So I don't think it will anytime soon.
Right. And that's what creativity is about. I think you've summed it up really well, that it's about courage, it's about vulnerability, and it's about pushing those boundaries. So and authenticity. So I guess, as long as you keep that going, it'll keep you. It's great.
Yeah, hope so.
So maybe if there are any other artists or budding artists that might be sort of watching you and watching your journey, maybe watching this interview, what kind of advice would you give to them in terms of moving forward with their own careers?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't see myself as someone that's in a position to give too much advice personally, but I think the main thing is just doing something, just moving forward and trying to stay out of your head and just stay in just moving forward. You know, whatever it is you're doing might not be the right thing, but at least it's something. I think when you can be destructive is when you're just sort of doing nothing, like you're waiting for things to happen to you. And I think taking that responsibility with music stuff is the best thing you can do. Like, it's something that I've sort of learned the hard way of waiting for things to happen for me. But I think if you're realistic about it, you have to get out there and you have to really want it. You know, if you want to be a musician and you want to, whatever it is, whatever your goals are, whatever you're sort of trying to do, it takes work. You know, it's not something that just falls in your lap. Maybe it does for some people, but it certainly hasn't for a lot. And I think just that constant process of moving forward and keeping the momentum going and doing stuff you're excited and passionate about is always going to fast track that, you know, like trying not to keep it too dry and boring for yourself. And I don't know, and just hanging out with like-minded people, I think too, you know, like chatting to other musicians, because you soon find out that most people that are on a similar path have, you know, you have conversations that everyone's sort of thinking the same thing and everyone's going through the same process of doing it. So having that sort of connection and camaraderie with people is just like inspirational. You know, it makes you want to keep working and it makes you feel like what you're doing makes sense in some ways. That was a pretty roundabout way of describing it, but
no, it was great. You also mentioned in there that like the work that's involved and doing the work, and I think a lot of people maybe from the outside don't realize how much work actually goes on behind the scenes beyond just the music creation and putting, like, you know, actually sharing your music. Are you able to maybe share a little bit about some of the work that you've had to sort of learn or had to develop sort of behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, I spend so much time behind the scenes doing, like, I write so many songs that are horrible, like stuff like that. Even I think people don't realize that stuff is like, at the moment I only have 3 songs out that I actually like, but I've got, you know, probably over 100 sitting there that I don't like. And like the amount of unanswered emails I've had over the years and the amount of, it's like, you just got to keep pushing. I think you need to get used to being rejected in a way. If you want to be a musician or you want to be a creative person, you have to get used to people saying no, and you have to get used to people not liking what you're doing. And it's like, it's really powerful once you can do that, because you can just push through it and not really worry too much about the small wins, I suppose. And just as long as you're winning overall in the long run and, you know, you're slowly improving, you're getting better, that's all that really matters. So, I mean, but in terms of stuff going background, like there's a lot of mainly emails, to be honest. I'd say lots of emails, but just trying to get better at stuff and being, you know, like reflecting on stuff you've done already, and, you know, just that constant process of trying to like refine whatever you're doing and getting better at it, you know, the next time because you make so many, I think, releases or gigs or whatever it is, you want to be that right amount of optimistic and positive about what you're doing to keep you going. You don't want to be too stuck in head and negative, but you also need to be self-aware and reflective enough to improve, because if you don't have that stuff, then you just end up staying at the same place and feeling like you're great, but it's not really working. So there's a lot of mistakes in the back scenes and stuff. And yeah, I'm still working it out all myself. I still feel like I'm at the total beginning of my journey, but I think a lot of people, even people that have gone very far with it, still kind of feel like that. And if you don't feel like you're at the beginning of your journey, then maybe you're doing something wrong, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, well, the whole scene's constantly changing, isn't it? So I guess if you learn everything, there's more.
Yeah, exactly. It never ends.
So is there anything before we finish up that you would like to share with our audience?
I mean, I probably already overshared too much, to be honest, but not necessarily, not that I can think of. Yeah, I'm sure there will be in the future, but
you can always reach out to me.
Yeah, will do.
So if people are looking to find your music, where can they find you?
Yes, I've got a few songs on Spotify and Apple Music and just sort of the mainstream streaming services and all that sort of stuff. But I think to sort of more follow what I'm doing in my journey with music, Instagram is probably the best place to find me. That's where I'm most active and sort of sharing the more personal side of things I'm up to and all of that. And that's where my future work will all be presented. So I'd say follow me on Instagram.
Fantastic. And I'll pop the links in the description so you can find him as well. So thank you so much for joining us, Oskar. It's been an amazing discussion. And
yeah, thanks so much
I
for
look
having
forward
me.
to sort of seeing what happens next.
Cheers. Thank you so much, Karen. Appreciate it.